Okay. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Shalama Budi Lopez, and I will be supporting with facilitation today.
Do you want me to start now?
Yeah, if you could just
Okay.
do consecutive now, and then
Okay.
I'll do the interpretation channel.
Así que mi nombre es Shalem, así de que ahora ya vamos a empezar y ahora sí les voy a dar unas instrucciones.
If you're joining us from a tablet, feel free to go ahead and click on the three dots that say more. Click language interpretation, and then select the language of your choice.
Entonces, si usas la tableta o un iPad, por favor, si puedes hacer clic donde dice more, que es M-O-R-E, o en español más, si le haces clic ahí y después le haces clic también donde dice lenguajes de interpretación, y de ahí puedes decir el español o el inglés.
I'll start the interpretation channel in just a second. If you're joining us from a computer, you can find the globe that says interpretation and click on English or Spanish, the language of your choice.
Por cierto, ahorita mandaré a grupos de intérpretes en la interpretación para que puedan escuchar lo que están interpretando. Pero para ahorita, por cierto, también, si también están usando computadora, ahí está un globito como de mundo. Pueden hacer clic ahí, apachurar ahí en ese mundito y pues sale el español o inglés y ya hagan clic el lenguaje que ustedes gusten.
And if you're joining us from a telephone, you can click at the three dots at the bottom that say more, click on language interpretation, and then the language of your choice.
Pero también si ustedes están usando teléfono inteligente o lo que es smartphone, igualmente pueden hacer clic donde están los tres puntos donde dice more, quiere decir más, y después le da la opción y pues apachurar donde dice lenguajes de interpretación, y de ahí ya puedes escoger el español o inglés, lenguaje que usted prefiere.
Okay, so at this time, I'm going to go ahead and start the interpretation channel. Just give me a moment here.
Ahora sí, voy a empezar a ponerlos en grupos ahora, así que la interpretación ahora sí va a empezar.
Okay, you all should be able to click on the globe icon and get into the proper interpretation channel. All right. All right. Well, thank you all. Appreciate you all being here this evening. Letting in a few more people in the waiting room here. We'll go ahead and get started. Let me just pull up my screen here. Okay. So my name is Shalem. I'll be your facilitator this evening. I first wanted to just go over the community agreements for this group. One is creating space for everyone to contribute, stepping up if you have something to share. But if you feel like you've been sharing too much, it's okay to also step back and let others share. Only having one person speak at a time, listen to each other, respect each other's opinions, knowledge, and perspective. Be conscientious of time and speak slowly and clearly for the interpreter as well. I may put in the chat box or stop a presenter if folks are speaking a little bit too quickly as well. We want to make sure everybody can hear. Before we get started, I wanted to make sure we did a roll call, and Lauren will be supporting with this on the back end here. Let's see here. When I call your name, please let me know by saying present. Keith Corey. Shelby Busso. Jack Monger.
Present.
Thank you, Jack. Massey Hatch.
Present. Hello.
Thank you, Massey. Sarah Giobi.
I'm here.
Thank you, Sarah. Lydia. Leslie. Tim.
Tim here.
Mariela. Nick Paul.
Present.
Thanks, Nick. Martin.
Martin Reeder, National City here.
David. David Welch.
He won't be attending.
Okay. Roman. Safia. Stephanie. Jose. Nick. Sergio. Jonathan.
Is that Jonathan Torres?
Yes.
Yes, present.
Okay. Liana.
She's not here.
Okay. Philomena. Janice.
Present. Thank you.
John. Hillary. Alicia.
Presente.
Margarita.
Present.
Naomi. Vanessa. Salvador. Sylvia.
Present. Sorry about that.
Okay. Ashley. Josephine.
Josephine, presente.
Okay. Maritza.
Marita,
Present.
David.
David,
Okay. And I apologize. Let me just go ahead and
Is that David Ramos?
yes, David Ramos.
Okay, yes. I
David
didn't know
Ramos.
the other one calling.
Yes. Sounds good. Let me go ahead. I see one of our interpreters needs to get back in the interpretation room. Let me go ahead and get that started again. 1 second.
I'm sorry, is Sylvia present?
Sylvia is here.
Yes,
did
I
see
am
her.
here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
I apologize. This is Leslie Nishihira with the port. I am using
Whoops. Sorry, Leslie, can you go ahead and speak? I accidentally muted.
apologies. I'm showing as Peter with my hand raised, but I had to use his link to get in. So I know you already passed my name in roll call, so just wanted to know.
All right,
Say
thank
that.
you. I apologize that do you need a separate link, Leslie?
I think that might be better if someone can email that to me, then I could log out and jump back in.
Okay, sounds
Appreciate
good.
that.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Lauren, if you'd be able to email Leslie. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay,
Appreciate
thanks. I'll
that.
be right back.
All right, I just want to make sure I didn't, if for some reason I called your name and you just came into the room, you want to let me know. Or if you didn't hear me call your name.
Hi, this is Keith from the city. I just put in the chat, but I came a couple minutes late in case you already called my name.
Sounds good. We'll make sure to update that, Keith. Sounds good. All right, let me go back to the slide deck here. And share my screen. All right, thanks everyone for roll call. Again, if for some reason we didn't call your name, go ahead and put a note in the chat and we'll make sure to update that as well. In terms of objectives for this evening, we're going to be receiving a presentation from Kathy Keehan on our team regarding AB 617 incentive grants and an opportunity for the CSC to provide feedback on a mix of projects and equipment that AB 617 funds can potentially support. Then there's going to be a presentation and discussion and opportunity to vote on the Portside projects and leases expectations document, which was carried over from last month's meeting. And then presentation and feedback regarding a notice of preparation for Austal's floating dry dock project. And lastly, a presentation from Jonathan Torres regarding SDGE's Transportation Electric Advisory Service. So that's all included in the agenda. I know that typically after we meet in person, we typically have a monitoring data presentation, but given the fullness of today's kind of agenda, that has been moved to October. Also gives our team a little bit more time as well to integrate your feedback. So thank you for your understanding. With that, I want to see if folks had an opportunity to review this agenda and also review the notes from the previous meeting. And see if there's anyone that'd like to motion to support the agenda or make modifications, and then to approve last month's meeting notes as well.
Shalom, before we do that, can you confirm we actually have a quorum? I didn't see the count go up.
Yeah, sure thing. I can do that. Let me just put it on the screen so that you all can see what I'm seeing as well. Let me stop sharing here. We do have quorum, but I'll show it here on my screen so you all can see. We have quorum with 17 present. All right, thanks, Sarah. Any other questions before someone makes a motion? Yes, Tim.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda and minutes from last meeting.
I second.
To approve. All right, Nicholas Poe. So the motion is to approve this agenda and then the meeting minutes from last. All those in favor?
Aye.
I see hands. Aye, and I see some hands. All right. Any oppose?
Well, I have an abstention because I would approve the agenda for today, but I was not at the last meeting, so I cannot approve those minutes.
Sounds good. We'll go to those who abstain next. Josie, I just want to see if there's anyone who votes no to approve. Okay, and then those who are abstaining. So Josie. So it moves forward. And so then at this time, we'll begin with some updates from public agencies, and want to open up the floor to any public agencies that have any updates or announcements to make. All right, I see Tim.
Thank you. Clean Air Day is next week, next Wednesday. SANDAG encourages the San Diego region to take the pledge and walk, bike, carpool, or ride transit for free with MTS and CTD on Wednesday, October 2nd. I'll put a link in the chat with more information. Thanks.
Awesome. And just to clarify, it's free, right? To ride transit?
Yeah, MTS and CTD transit is free.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Tim. Nick.
Yeah, thanks, Shalem. Just wanted to take a minute to share that APCD is going to have a workshop, a public workshop tomorrow evening. So Wednesday, September 25th at 10 a.m. This is a workshop to discuss proposed amendments to rules 1200 and 1210, which are toxic air contaminant, new source review, and health risk public notification and risk reduction rules. The intent of the rule development changes, or the rule changes that we're proposing, are to address some comments that were made by CARB as part of their recent district audit in regards to the process of how we add health risk values, new health risk values, and amended health risk values to those rules. So we're going to be kind of fixing that process to address CARB's audit recommendation. So we invite everyone to attend the workshop if you're interested. I believe that the workshop is going to be held on Zoom. I believe in the meeting materials for tonight's meeting that we included the workshop notice as well as some fact sheets, some bilingual fact sheets. So feel free to take a look at those, and those have registration information if anybody's curious about those. We'll be taking comments on the action until October 2nd. And then we're hoping to go to our board to consider the amendments in early next year, whenever the board sets their meeting agenda. So we'll figure that out when that time comes. But thanks, Shalem. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any. But thank you, everyone.
Yeah, Jack, do you have an announcement, or is it a follow-up question to what Nick shared?
It's a follow-up question. Actually, Michelle had her hand up before I did.
Okay. Go ahead, Michelle. Then we'll get to the follow-up question.
Okay. Hi, I'm Michelle Jerome from the Port of San Diego. I wanted to share that construction work is beginning on enhancements to Pepper Park. A groundbreaking ceremony was held earlier this month, and Pepper Park's redesign incorporated feedback from community members at workshops, which some of you may have attended. We're excited about the first phase of enhancements, which include a perched beach, a pirate-themed playground, a splash pad, and a picnic area. Construction is expected to last from 12 to 18 months. During this time, the park will remain open, but portions under construction will be closed. Signs will be posted at the park to inform visitors. For more details, please visit the National City Bayfront webpage, which I'll post in the chat. We appreciate receiving state and federal funds for the project, as well as a contribution from Austal USA.
Thank you, Michelle. Next, I'll go to Jack.
Thank you, Shalem. I just wanted to be clear on the quorum numbers that were posted. The total present 17, total absent 17, total absent excused is 2. Does that mean we have a total of 36, or is the 2 part of the total absent 17?
Let me pull that back up 1 second.
Sure.
Okay. So your question, Jack?
Yeah, is the total absent excused number of 2, is that part of the 17, or is that in addition to the 17 absence for a total? So meaning is a total 34 or 36 that we're actually looking at?
Yeah, so from looking at this, it looks like it automatically populates separately. So absent excused is 2 and absent is 17. So 2 people let us know in advance that they would not be able to be present tonight.
And so the total that we're looking at, is it 34 or 36?
Well, let's do the math here. It's 36. Diane is no longer an alternate. She retired, and the same with Joy.
So the total is 36. So we have 17. That's less than 50%. Is that our quorum? Does that meet our quorum requirements?
believe it does. Diane is no longer with us. Neither is Joy in terms of being retired.
So the total absent 17 is counting Joy and Diane?
I apologize, it's not counting them. Let's see here. Domingo, are you on the line by any chance?
I am, yes.
For quorum, I just want to verify, Domingo, does that include alternates as well, or is it just counting one for quorum, like 50% and above? Like if it's an alternate or a primary member?
Right, it should be either the alternate or the primary.
But not both.
Okay.
Correct. Because if both are present, only one vote is counted.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we can tally in terms of like who's here in terms of alternate and primary to see specifically regarding that quorum. Go to the voting tab. Yeah. So let me actually pull this up on the screen. This might be an easy way to do it here. So here, Jack, if you can see on the vote tab itself, it shows either present for primary or alternate. And so maybe we can count here. Actually, Florin, may I get your support in checking my numbers? So for present for CSC members, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 for present. And then in terms of absent, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for absent. So Jack, I believe that does meet quorum based upon alternates and primaries being present or absent. Does that help, Jack?
Sorry, Shalem. Now I see we're dealing with the number of 30. So are 30, are all of those 30 names actually not alternates, just primary?
So not every person has an alternate. So those that do have an alternate are listed here. If I'm not sure if you're able to see my screen at the moment. I think you're able to see.
It's pretty small, but I can see it.
This is basically the number of votes.
Exactly.
So so there's 30 voting members present. Okay, so that's different than 36 that were on the previous slide showing in attendance. So the actual alternates, if they're there in addition to their primary, should not be counted.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
You're right. Yeah. And so that's what these numbers are showing here on the screen.
Okay. It was a little confusing when you had 17 and 17 and 2.
Yeah, and that's just when we take attendance, I'm also checking to see if there's even alternates here too. And then it automatically populates on this screen based upon alternates and primaries.
Okay.
All right. Does that clarify it, Jack?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, absolutely.
I think Sarah has a question.
Yeah, Sarah.
No question, actually. I just wanted to announce that in partnership with APCD, we have introduced 3 electric buses at NASCO. And the benefit of these is that they pretty much operate entirely in the Portside neighborhood. They're used for taking Navy personnel and NASCO personnel between the different facilities that we work with in Portside community. So we just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that. We think it's a really wonderful addition and a really great way to reduce emissions by retiring kind of older diesel buses and introducing those. So I just wanted to share that and nothing more. Thanks.
That's a big thing to share. Thanks for sharing that. All right, and we have one more announcement. I'm going to share my screen for that, and I'll turn it to Lauren to share this announcement. Just make sure my screen is up. Right, Lauren.
Hi, yeah, we are, I wanted to announce we have begun the 2025 Student Art Calendar Contest at the San Diego Air Pollution Control District. So what does this mean? That means if you know a student that attends school in San Diego County, anywhere between the ages of going to kindergarten to 12th grade, they can do some art for us. The art should depict kind of what clean air for all would look like in their community is what we're asking. You can scan this QR code for more information. And we also have it all on our website. There is a form to fill out. Entry is free. The deadline is November 1st to enter. And then we make a calendar out of the 13 winners. We pick the best entries, and winners get a free calendar as well as a certificate and some other goodies. And it's just kind of a fun thing for kids to get to do. You can also include, if you know any teachers, please share this with them, librarians. If you have students that you know, please share it with them. And then you can mail in the art or email it to us, but all the information is there on that QR code. And yeah, it's basically can even boost STEAM activities. So that's kind of a buzzword in education communities. So getting that art into science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is what STEAM is. So yeah, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions as well. And then we also have the next slide is just a couple of community events we'll be at coming up. As was shared by Tim, Clean Air Day is coming up. And so there are a number of events happening for that. So it's not just the one day, there's kind of events going on for kind of about a week around Clean Air Day. We're going to be at a couple. We're going to be in the South Bay in San Ysidro doing the Balaton with Casa Familiar on Thursday of this week. So it's a 2-hour nonstop dance party. We encourage you to join us there if you can. It should be a lot of fun. That's Thursday morning. There's a QR code on the screen for more of that information on that. And then if you can make it all the way up to North County, or if you're already in North County, Vista, we're going to be there with the Vista Community Clinic. They're shutting down the streets on Main Street Vista and having a cyclovia event there. That should be a lot of fun. That's this Sunday starting from 10 to 2, and they have some gift cards and some giveaways and some fun stuff there. So if you're there, come by and say hi. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I see Maritza, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Just really quick, would you possibly be able to make this in presentation mode so that it goes a little bigger, because the QR code's a little small for me to scan?
Sure thing.
Thank you so much.
There you go. And then Lauren will be dropping some links in the chat box as well, which is the link that takes you to where that QR code will take you to as well. So hope to see some entries from the community. With that, we're going to go ahead and start our first presentation and discussion. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to Kathy if you're ready to present.
I'm ready. It's going to be exciting. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about our AB 617 incentives funding program. As many of you who have been on this committee for a while know, we have specific incentive funding that we use for projects that benefit environmental justice communities. We did, I think, enclosed with the agenda this year, we might have sent it early on. We did a little one-page synopsis of this. So hopefully if you all have that, you can follow along. Each year we have funding to spend, and we provide an opportunity for people to apply for that funding. every year. Then we evaluate those applications. We see where people's projects are, what kind of projects they are, and what is eligible to be funded. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So this program, we've received about $85 million from the state over the last 6 years to fund projects for this program. We have contracted or paid out about $42.5 million of that funding so far. We have plans for, we haven't allocated this funding completely yet, but we also have plans for if we are able to achieve the MOU with the Port District. We've set aside $7 million to help with projects in that program. We've also set aside an additional $2 million. We've heard from the communities, both Portside and International Border, for an air filter program. So we've set aside $2 million for that. We also have accumulated approximately $2.7 million in interest on funding that's been at the district but hasn't been paid out yet. And so that leaves about $36.8 million left to allocate. I do want to mention at this point that the district board approved a project to provide air filters in the communities affected by the Tijuana River Valley sewage issue. And so we're looking to pay for that program. We're looking to use that $2.7 million in interest on the incentive funding that the district has received to help pay for that program, to provide relief for folks who are experiencing the sewage odors from that Tijuana River Valley situation. So, but with the funding we have left to allocate, if we could go to the next slide, please. I did a little chart of the kinds of projects that we received, the applications we received this year, and what we think is eligible for funding. We received about $25.4 million worth of projects that we think are eligible for funding this year. Those projects include 2 zero-emission trucks that we intend to fund through our zero-emission truck pilot project that we've talked about here before. Those trucks would be working in Portside. We also included the repower of a marine vessel to cleaner diesel technology for $120,000 on that project. And then in Portside, 4 heavy-duty charging stations. Those range from public charging to private charging projects in and around Portside. We also received applications for 2 heavy-duty charging stations in the international border and 1 charging station in El Cajon, which is also one of census tracts that reach that top 25% of the Callan virus screen scores. We heard from the community over the years that they really want to focus, you all really want to focus this money on zero emission projects. And so these were why we chose the projects we did. We also had applications for natural gas trucks that cross the international border region. We intend to pay for those out of our Carl Moyer funding, and some agricultural equipment in international border as well that was switching from old diesel to new diesel, and we're not planning on using AB 617 funding for those projects. We would be using the region-wide Carl Moyer funding for those. For these projects, we really tried to focus on projects that were direct in the communities and pushed the technology to zero emission. So I'll pause here for a minute and see if there are any questions about the program or the equipment or types of projects that we received applications for. Hearing none, can we go to the next slide? So we wanted to ask the community for your feedback on this mix of projects. As I mentioned, we're looking at the zero emission, particularly most of the money this year would be toward zero emission infrastructure. So charging stations to help businesses and organizations make that transition to those zero emission trucks, like Sarah was talking about, we're funding in the program. We wanted to check with the community to make sure that these were projects that you all wanted to support, and also get your feedback if you had any on using that interest funding for the filtration or air purifier program that we've been asked to do at the near the Tijuana River Valley. So does anyone have any questions or any feedback for us? Sylvia.
Yes, hi. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi.
These are very good news. I love the updates that you're providing, especially the support for this Tijuana River switch Spanish. How would I say this? I really love the implementation that we're supporting this project that's taking place and has been going on for years, unfortunately. But my concern is for future support. I'm assuming that we're gonna try to find other ways to support our communities here at the Portside communities as well. Do we have any updates yet, or what are any plans that are taking place? And my second question in regards to the projects that are being implemented with this new energy, I am a little concerned in regards to, I know it's a transition, but I have informed my concerns in regards to any fires that could take place, and if there is, what would be the next actions taken in regards to this?
Those are good questions and comments, Sylvia. I'll take the first one first. So our intention is to, on the air purifier program, we are focusing on Tijuana River Valley in the short term, but we still intend and have money to provide filters and monitors in our traditional PAIR program that we're going to be restarting. We're hoping to restart that next year. So the answer is yes, we still intend to provide funding for air purifiers in Portside also. It will probably be after we can figure out how to do the Tijuana River filters,
Right. It's much needed, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then the second question on the fires for the infrastructure projects, we're working closely with the applicants to make sure that their projects are providing the highest standards for installation and maintenance to minimize the potential risk of fires for those. We require that they use EVITP certified electricians to do the design and construction of those infrastructure projects. And my understanding is each of the jurisdictions where those go will also have safeguards for fire protection on those.
Yes, I would really appreciate a very detailed assessment to this type of actions that are being taken care of, because we are trying to get away from pollution, reducing emissions, and of course creating a greater danger, if hopefully not, but that's our biggest concern, not only mine itself as a member, a resident, but also our families around the Portside and other areas. Yeah, as you can remember, the Navy fire, that was a little good one that we can't forget. So I would appreciate that extra step that and once again, thank you so much for all those consideration and compassion that you're taking place in creating this great projects and assessments altogether. Also, the language barriers, that has been a big help, and I applaud you in that as well. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sylvia. I appreciate that feedback. Those are good comments. We'll take a look at those fire aspects for sure. And thanks for the other kind words.
Thank you, Kathy, for your work.
Does anybody else have any feedback on these particular projects? You're good with them, I hope?
I do have feedback just to add
Yeah.
to. Hi, everyone. Janice Luna Reynoso, National City. My question to that, I don't want to make it too long, but sometimes as community members, we see the solution, it's right in front of us. So in that case, what investments have been made to the local fire departments, right? Or do they have the top of the line equipment? Is any of that funding available, not just for this, but any other instance that happens in our community? We're far too overlooked and under-resourced. So has that basic infrastructure or investment been done to the local fire departments, or even within the military base? Do they have those upgrades ready to go? We're talking about, we're in a time in the era of natural disasters and human error disasters and carelessness as well. And our communities get hit the hardest. And so I just want to know what investments have been made just to prevent or to plan for the next thing. Thank you.
That's a good question, Janice. I don't have the answer to that, but I could certainly take that back and see if we can see what we can find out. But it's a good comment. I appreciate that. Anyone else? Oh, Nicholas.
I have a quick question, Kathy. So one of the Portside projects is repowering of a marine vessel.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Yeah.
It means that's a good question. I'm sorry we didn't clarify that. It means that they take out the old diesel engines and put new ones in that are lower emission. So the boat stays the same, but it has new, less polluting engines in the boat because it's very expensive to replace the whole vessel.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
The vessel itself would still be diesel?
These would, in this particular case, this vessel would still be diesel. Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. Sarah. Oh.
My mistake. Sorry about that.
No worries. Anyone else? I know we've got a lot on today's agenda, so we're always happy to answer questions or provide more information if you have them, but really appreciate the time today and getting your feedback on these projects. Thank you so much for your continued support of our program.
Thank you, Kathy, for sharing that today. And Lauren posted earlier in the chat box, Kathy made a one-pager, both in English and Spanish, basically went over exactly what this presentation is. So if you have any other feedback or comments, feel free to reach out to myself or Kathy, and happy to take those things into consideration. But great questions today.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kathy. All right, so we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is potentially an action item regarding the Portside project and Leases expectations document that was shared with folks first back in May at our in-person meeting. And then your feedback was incorporated into the revised version of that, which was shared, I believe, before last month's meeting. I'm going to share a little bit of background about this document, what kind of started its development, and then also share what it is and what it's not as well. But then I'd like to open it up first to any of the subcommittee members in the implementation of funding subcommittee, which this document came out of, to see if they have any other things that they'd like to share in terms of context or background as well, before we open it up for full discussion. So a little bit of background about this document is that it came out of community conversations around the community's experience with a project that happened, a proposal for a project that happened about a year and a half ago, and about the need for more transparency and communication between industries that have different proposals in the Portside community. So not just at the port itself, but generally in the Portside community. And it really came, what really bubbled up for focus, really having a desire for a tool that can help, one, help ensure that waterfront activities don't worsen the impacts on the already burdened Portside communities, but rather contribute to the improvement of air quality and quality of life for residents and workers in the Portside. So it's like, do we have an easy tool that does that? And folks in the subcommittee showing that we needed something a little bit easier to help shape and better help communicate what a project includes, what it doesn't include. So the purpose of the Portside expectations document is one, again, to improve transparency and better understand the scope of potential impacts of projects or lease agreements. And really at its core is a tool for transparency and communication. What the document is and what it is not and what it is. So this document does not replace the Community Emission Reduction Program, the CERP, but supports CERP strategies and protects its progress. And it's not an enforceable regulatory document, but really just a set of clear community expectations as well. So it doesn't replace the CERP, and it's not an enforceable regulatory document. But how can this document potentially be used? This document can be used potentially to help CSC members evaluate support for port leases or projects in the Portside communities. It could provide guidance to governing bodies as part of its discretionary process for project and lease review. And thirdly, it can support project and lease proponents share in an easy and accessible manner elements and potential impacts of their project lease agreement. Again, all of this is to say this wouldn't necessarily be a requirement. So I put an asterisk here on number 2. This wouldn't be a requirement if this document is voted in favor of by the CSC, but a requirement of a governing body to apply. It's just potentially could be a helpful tool to be able to evaluate and communicate in a transparent manner what a project includes and its potential positive or air quality impacts. The key elements in the document include a section around community outreach and engagement expectations. The second section includes Portside project and port lease emission reduction strategies. The third section includes employer and workplace expectations. And the third includes community benefits. Now, one thing I do want to highlight is that there are some components, and I try to, as clearly as possible, articulate which components are directly included in the CERP and which components are in addition to what's included in the CERP itself. And so if you see the asterisk, those elements, those sections in the document aren't necessarily sections that are directly listed in the CERP. But other sections that don't have an asterisk are actually included in some way in the CERP itself. And I know Lauren put this in the chat box earlier, but if you're able to, Lauren, just so that folks can have easy access, put the links to the document itself. So now I just want to open up the floor for first, maybe any of the subcommittee members that helped work on this to share perspectives, thoughts on the purpose of this document and maybe the intention of how this document could potentially be used. Nicholas.
Yeah, I could kind of jump in, Shalem. I think, as a subcommittee, we've been kind of wrestling with what this document looks like, and for quite some time now. I think, geez, 6-7 months, and maybe even more. And I think we've done our best to kind of take some of the feedback. Sal and I presented several months back as well, to try to solicit some of that feedback. And so really, I think this document is, we've incorporated that feedback as well, but I think this document really gets to some of those initial concerns that residents had, as far as wanting more information earlier, to be able to, weigh project benefits and if projects are going to serve community members and their health. And so I think, it was a good exercise for the CSE, and I think it affirms the SERP well. So that's all I say. Thanks.
Thanks, Nicholas. Wanted to open it up to everyone if there's any questions or comments. Yeah, Leslie.
Thank you for this presentation, and I'll just, restate comments that, Phil Gibbons has done such an excellent job of articulating in the past. But, the port is very focused on implementing the MCAS. That's where we believe effort should be, really putting the attention towards. And as we've expressed before, we are very concerned that what will come of this expectation document is basically ad hoc interpretation or negotiations that will, be inconsistent with the application of the adopted SERP in the MCAS. So, we just want to restate those concerns and just make it be known that we're struggling with that.
Thank you, Leslie. Maritza.
Thank you, Shalom. And thank you for the subcommittee to, dedicating so much time to create this document. I think it is very important to have something of this nature. I understand that, we worked really hard to create the SERP and the MCAS, and everyone was very excited of what the outcome could be for our community when that was done. And it was a great celebration. And I don't want to take away from that. I want to actually emphasize of how great that felt, that this document can, make that even greater. None of these things that I've reviewed really puts a damper on our goals, or anything of that nature. And I think that it actually helps improve what we've already started. As a community member, we're so used to having these documents be created and kind of just forgot about. It's a little interesting to hear that, the interpretation of it could be a downfall in the future, when realistically, in the community's perspective, the interpretation of policies that have been created before is what's gotten us to this. The interpretation has always been for the benefit of dollars and of industry. And we have never really had the privilege of being able to interpret it for our benefit as a community. So to have a document that really clearly lines out what is needed, and it's just reiterating, these goals and these this language that we spent years to develop in these two documents. I fail to see how there can be hesitation on that, on either party. We're all wanting to have a better neighborhood, and this is a clear way to be able to do that, and not have as much time wasted on, the community's end or on industry's end of entertaining these ideas or these proposals that ultimately won't benefit everyone. So I think that this just makes it easier for people to really see what is required and what not necessarily what the community requires to have good neighbors and good industry neighbors. I feel like we can achieve that, but we need to have a different type of mindset to be able to get to that goal. Thank you.
Thanks, Maritza. We'll go to Tim and then Sal.
Thank you. I really appreciate the reorganization of the document. I think it's come a long way since the first iteration. Really appreciate the effort of the folks who have worked on it. I especially appreciate the reorganization of the document to highlight which sections of the document are explicitly consistent with the SERP and which goals and objectives that they are implementing in a workable fashion. So you can really go through the document and see, if a potential project is consistent or inconsistent. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Want to float the idea that there could be, as a possible motion, I don't really want to make it quite yet, but just float it as an idea that there could be multiple votes. There could be a vote on all of the parts of the document that are explicitly consistent with the SERP, and then a separate vote on the components of the documents that are not part of the SERP explicitly. And then the resulting action would be to adopt one or two of those components. So I'll stop there. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. Let's go to Sal next.
Thank you, Shalom. Yeah, so I think that what's been said is correct. So up to this point, the idea of this document was to listen or bring forward the concerns of the community, and then turn around and identify where the MCAS or the SERP actually cross paths with such ideas or concerns, as Tim just mentioned, that identifying exactly where it does line up and where there may be challenge to find something to line up with it, because the SERP or the MCAS is not all inclusive either. So bringing these concerns forward, it only allowed for the community to be heard and the concerns to be addressed, even through this document, to say, hey, the community wants to hear about projects as early as possible to be able to weigh in and feel that their voice is being heard. And I think at the end of the day, that's what this document is really highlighting. And it's helpful to the community to understand or to make the connection the way that is currently presented, right? The connections and pulling out the actual item or article numbers from SERP or MCAS. So I would say that it was time well spent, a little hard, but time well spent to get here. And, I would disagree in separating the two, because I think it's a document in itself as a whole. But I appreciate the discussion, the effort that's gone into this overall, and obviously hearing the concerns from others with the current MCAS or SERP documents, or that are currently working and are trying to achieve those goals set in those documents. But we can't sit here and say that the community is being heard at the level that is expected. You can interpret these current documents, and you can see that there was outreach done. Well, at what level? Because the level of outreach is not measured in any sense, shape, or form, and this document provides for an opportunity for that outreach to be measured and the accessibility to the community to participate. So that's my 2 cents, and I'll sit here and continue to listen. But great so far.
Thanks, Sal. Sarah.
Hi, yeah, as I understand it, the focus of the document is entirely on port tenants and waterfront businesses, and there are no expectations being made, say, for City of San Diego projects or City of National City projects, or things that are beyond the water side. Is that correct?
No, actually, it's for any project within the Portside communities.
Okay, because it said waterfront in there, so that's what was throwing me off. And is that and I think it was the subcommittee that did that. Can they confirm that they're planning to extend these expectations to these other agencies?
I don't know if Nick, you want to chime in on that, but I know that was a big part of one of the discussion, a discussion point being had at the subcommittee level.
Yeah, I think the idea, Sarah, is that advancing projects in the cleanest, most responsive ways that is going to make sure that residents throughout the Portside are breathing the cleanest air was the objective.
Right. And I mean, I think you understand my concern. I've worked in the community for more than 20 years at this point, and I drive through the streets, and we brought a project in front of the port, and I think the port was very good at making sure that we had gone to this committee, to the community planning group, that we did our public meetings, that we incorporated the appropriate mitigations and the appropriate emission controls. And but I see a lot of projects that are off the waterfront that don't seem to be similarly impacted. Sylvia was just mentioning concern about fire, and there's literally a giant battery storage facility on 27th and Main going in right now, like way bigger than any one person's charging equipment. And during the ACLIMA monitoring, there was a hotspot that registered in a place that the district didn't really understand, and it turned out it looked like it was right across from where they were doing all of the major construction work at the Logan Memorial Educational Complex. There were, dozens and dozens and dozens of pieces of diesel equipment there for a couple of years, if I recollect. And so I just want to make sure, because I feel like the waterfront businesses, the port tenants, we've been in this process and we're here and we're contributing, but I'm not really seeing that same level of effort that's being put towards other communities or towards other entities that could be contributing here, including, the public roadways and transit hubs and things like that. So my concern here is it's starting to feel like a very one-sided process. And I think we just really need to pay attention to that. So that would be my comment. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a really great comment, and that's why it's for anything within the Portside communities, so not just waterfront, but Portside communities. Any other questions or comments? Again, folks don't need to take action today if there's not a motion to. But you could also decide, since this is put on the agenda as an action item, you could also decide to make a motion to take action on this item today.
Yeah, I'd like to, sorry, go ahead.
No, you got it, Nick.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion for a vote to approve the document in whole.
And I second that motion. This is Maritza.
I just want to write it out here just so that everybody has an opportunity. And Jack, I see your hand, so we'll go to discussion next, and then Tim next. So the motion is to approve the document or to approve the full document. Nick. And then if I could have Domingo in the chat box write the translation for us, so I can also put it on here as well. I saw Jack's hand go up. Jack.
Thank you, Shalom. Appreciate it. Now that we have a motion on the floor, I'm going to be abstaining from voting on this because for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think the language in the first paragraph is pretty direct when it says this is really going to be a set of community expectations, and it really is describing, I think, something different than what the SERP was intended to do. It seems to be addressing some issues that have existed longer than this committee's been together as a community steering committee, in terms of concerns over being heard or being allowed to participate in the discussion, or feeling like the issues raised by the community were not listened to or not addressed. As I heard this presented the very first time, I couldn't help but wonder whether or not the committee that was proposing all of this had any direct communication with the Port District, for example, just one agency we're talking about here, as you've noted, in addition to National City, City of San Diego, and others. But if anyone had spoken with the Port District about exactly what the community outreach portion of their and their requirements were for any project, it's quite extensive. It involves multiple opportunities for participation. So this seemed to be redundant and unnecessary, at least as based upon my experience with the Port District. Others may feel differently, and that's of course fine. But I really, again, feel that the SERP that we all worked so hard on contains a variety of action items and efforts and goals that we have. And while I think I would love to see us really focusing on those going forward and making sure that we are accomplishing those. But here, all of a sudden, now we have another evening spent on a follow-up document, or whatever you want to call this, that really is I don't think it's going to help the process at all. I don't see it. I see it really just taking up time in our agenda to when we could be talking about more of the things like Kathy's presentation tonight and other reports about progress being made. So, but if that's what everybody wants to spend time talking about, and at the expense of really achieving some of the accomplishments and some of the goals that we're working towards here, then I guess that's the way it'll be.
Thank you, Jack, for providing your perspective. Really appreciate it. Tim, I see your hand up.
Yeah, this is probably like a question maybe for Domingo or bylaws, but I'd like to make a substitute motion that we approve or vote to approve only the items listed on slide 20 that are consistent with the SERP document. And yeah, that'll be my motion. Substitute motion if that can be allowed.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think that's voted on first then, and
Yes,
then
exactly.
we go to a vote to the original motion.
I'm going to need a second for that. If there's anyone that wants to second that in order for that substitute motion to Jack?
Oh, I would second that.
Okay. Second, let me just make sure, because just for clarity, just to make sure everybody knows what we are voting on. Tim, can you restate your motion, please?
Sure. Motion to approve the parts of the document that are consistent with the SERP as outlined on slide 20.
Excuse me. And then can I get someone to write that in the chat box in Spanish? Because I just want to make sure that I carry that over here so everyone is clear on what is being.
Thank you, Shalom. I'm writing it right now.
Thank you.
If in the meantime, if you can go back to the Spanish translation on the first one, document needs an O after the T. It's just auto correcting it on the chat and it's not letting me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shalom. Sorry, this is Sylvia.
Yes,
In that
Sylvia.
same statement that Domingo mentioned, it says it should translate approve. You just need to switch the R and the O. Aprobar. That would be great.
There we go. Thank you so much. I'm just going to wait for that text to be dropped before we take a vote on the substitute motion first.
Are we having a conversation, Shalom, about the
Oh
substitute?
yes, I apologize. Let's go ahead and engage in discussion before there is a vote on the substitute motion. Anyone, any discussion here? Nicholas?
Yeah, you know, I think I'm a little concerned about splitting up this document. I think in my mind anyway, I feel like what that means, the second motion, is the additions of early outreach, early and like informing the CSC at the soonest possible moment. And the labor additions would be on the chopping block. And I think those are kind of priority issues that community CSC members have elevated as a priority in this document. And so I think for me, I don't like the idea of kind of splitting it up and presenting the opportunity of making those additions, allowing this document to move forward without those additions.
I think this is a good opportunity for documentation of what the community is wanting. And my understanding of the SERP to begin with is that it's not a static document. As any equitable planning document, it needs to evolve and grow with the community's needs, and also any harms that continue or if they need to be amended. And so for me, this is a good opportunity to document the community's voice. As you're saying, that is not holding a certain amount of weight, but it does document that. And so I am also concerned about that being split when the motion is made, especially I know that we don't operate on the fact of equity versus those that are more impacted in a harmful way. Our vote is worth the same of historically, systemic leadership that is not the harmed. And so I'm thinking this is just looking at it through a lens of equity, and to understand that for us as community members, it's very important to archive the movement, what is needed, even if it's just in spirit. And here it would be documented of what the community is asking for, and just going into more detail. And again, if my understanding is incorrect that the SERP is going to be forever static, what then would we have to refer to down the line, years to come, that the community was asking for certain things to improve the quality of life for the residents that have been historically harmed? Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Janice. Want to see if there's any other discussion before we vote on the substitute motion first.
I just wanted to echo what has been said by my fellow community members. It's very it's just frustrating to have these same conversations, and to the point of that was made earlier, that we're choosing to spend our time on this document instead of talking about wins or successes. We really need to get away from that type of mindset to feel like or to see real change happening. What community is talking about, or how I see it, is more of a holistic approach, more of a way to actually change from the root of the problem, not the surface of it, of what we can see as results. When community is not involved, or when being told that people haven't reached out to the port on their outreach, when we live in the community and physically see the outreach or lack thereof sometimes of these projects, We don't need to go to someone to be told that we're not getting this information at home. So yes, I understand that we're spending time on this topic that maybe others feel that is unnecessary. But as someone who's lived here her whole life and has had generations of family members living here, this is the time to talk about this. This is the space to talk about this, to really have these positive changes. And so, some might see this as a waste of time. I see this as so important and long overdue. And if we need to have multiple meetings dedicated to this, that is, I think, what we should do, because we're community members that live here. I appreciate the people that have said, they've worked here for decades and they drive through the community. That implies that you get to escape, to an extent. You get to leave to wherever your home is and not have to deal with this. And we don't have that same thing. We live here, we work here, we serve here, and this is what we want to improve. So yeah, this substitute motion is not benefiting anyone other than who has always been benefited. And that just really needs to change at this point, you guys. I'm sorry, but we really need to change that mindset. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Maritza. Domingo, just as a point of clarification, if we're going to be voting on the substitute motion first. If the substitute motion passes, that means we do not vote on the original motion.
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay. So that means if the substitute motion does not pass, that means we have an opportunity to vote on the original motion.
That's correct.
Okay, so I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. I'm going to go to Josie, and then for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and call the roll for voting after Josie's comment.
Can you wait before you call the vote? I don't understand how a substitute motion goes into effect when we haven't dealt with the first one. And there was not even a full-bodied discussion on the first motion. All of a sudden, we're moving to another motion. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, Josie. So procedurally, at any point in the discussion for the first motion, anyone can propose a substitute motion as part of that discussion, which did occur. And so procedurally, what will take place is a vote first on the substitute motion. If the substitute motion does not pass, it gives this committee an opportunity to vote on the first motion. And so again, at any point in the discussion for the first motion, a substitute motion can be proposed.
So if I wanted to propose an additional substitute motion, then that would cancel out the previous two?
It wouldn't cancel them unless it's approved. So you can make a third motion, and then that third motion would be voted on first. If that motion passes, then it automatically cancels the previous two. If it doesn't pass, then we go in order, to the second motion. If that one doesn't pass, then we go to the first one. With the understanding that if a particular motion passes, that means that the body has agreed on that particular point. So the other points are no longer up for discussion.
So if people don't like the substitute motion that's on the floor, which I'm starting to hear is the case, and it already has a second, the vote should be called on that motion. And if it fails, you go back to the original motion. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm hearing that people don't like the substitute motion on the floor. So why don't we vote on it?
Yep, that's where I was going
and
next,
move
Keith.
forward.
Yep, that's where I was going next. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and actually share my screen. 1 second. Let me just log off this for a second.
And I'm sorry, Shalom, I didn't mean to repeat what you just said. I'm just getting my head around it as well.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate the reiteration of it. Okay, so make sure that you all can see my screen okay. What I'm going to do as well is I want to make sure I put in the chat box what folks are voting on in terms of the secondary motion. I apologize, I'm operating a lot of widgets here. So this is the second or the substitute motion, which folks will be voting on right now as soon as I get that information up. Okay, so this is calling a vote for the substitute motion. Keith. Yes, no, or abstain?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I'm calling the vote for the substitute motion. I just wanted to know if you vote yes, no, or
Oh, okay.
abstain.
You're starting at the top of the list. Got it.
Yep,
I
just
vote,
starting right at the top.
I vote no on the substitute motion.
Okay. Jack.
I vote yes.
Sarah.
Abstain.
Leslie.
Abstain.
Tim.
Yes.
Nick.
No.
Martin.
Aye.
Roman is absent. Jose is absent. Jonathan.
Abstain.
Philomena is absent. Janice.
No.
John is absent. Hillary is absent. Alicia.
No.
Could you repeat that?
No.
No? Okay. Margarita.
No.
Naomi, Vanessa are absent. Sal.
No.
Montserrat absent. Sylvia.
No.
Okay. I think I saw Ashley come in. It's Ashley, are you here?
She actually mentioned to me she's having connectivity issues. It's not letting her log in fully.
Okay.
She did give me her vote, but I'm assuming that you need to hear her say it, but she was no.
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would need to hear. Josie.
No.
Maritza.
No.
David.
No.
Okay. So there's 3 yeses, 10 noes, and 3 abstain. So the motion, the substitute motion does not pass. So now we will be voting on the primary motion or the first motion. I apologize, I'm just wasn't prepared for a substitute motion today. Let me do this here and clear this out.
You can use, there's another tab you can use.
Oh, is there another tab? Thank
Yeah.
you so much. I appreciate that, Lauren. Lauren is always prepared for me. And then Lauren, would you mind putting in the chat box the primary motion in both English and Spanish?
Sure.
And as Lauren's doing that, Janice, I do see your hand up. Janice?
Can we please have Hillary Medina removed? She's no longer a resident in the area. I think we've reached out prior to this and it keeps throwing off quorum.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. Okay, Lauren's going to put that in the chat box. And just to refresh our memory, the first motion is a motion to approve the full document. Motion to approve the full document, and Lauren just put that in the chat. We're going to go start the roll call again. Keith.
Shalem, I think this motion needs to be articulated with a little more detail than just approve the entire document. Can you add some more detail with an attempt to summarize what the document effectively does or the purpose that it serves? I think it feels somewhat misleading to just say approve the entire document.
I believe, and Domingo, correct me if I'm wrong, it would be up to the person who made the motion, right? To provide any further clarity?
That's correct.
So it'd be up to Nick to provide that more clarity.
Okay. Yeah, motion to approve the project lease and expectation document in its entirety. Yeah, I don't know how much more focus we can get.
Maybe we just, I'm just suggesting if this is what you'd like to do, I'm just putting Portside project, because that's how we've been referring to it.
And then sorry, there's a quick comment just to see if this helps clarify, but if the document is stating the purpose of it in itself, then that would be the purpose of the document. If that's, if the document is being approved as is in its entirety, and the purpose of the document is stated in the document itself, then that's the purpose of it.
Yeah. Is this rewarding, Nick? Help provide a little bit more specificity?
I think so.
Okay. I'm just going to ask for the Spanish translation to make sure everybody completely understands what the motion is. So I'll just wait for that in the chat box and
working on it.
Yeah. Maritza, the clarification on the motion. Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I'm just waiting for the translation before we move forward for the vote. And that's coming soon. Okay. Domingo, was that put in the chat box?
Sorry, still working on it.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's just that the chat box keeps auto-correcting and it's not letting me, so I'm struggling a little bit with the actual wording. But it's coming. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Shalom, I'm looking at slides like 19 through 21 on your screen currently. While we're waiting, can you scroll up to earlier points in the slide or in the deck?
Yes, hold on. I'm copying and pasting some information here. Okay. Also, the slide deck is posted online as well. And Lauren, if would you mind putting that in the chat box? If folks want to reference that as we're taking the roll, they can. All right, we'll start here. Keith.
Yes.
Okay, Jack.
I'll abstain. Thank you.
Sarah.
Abstain.
Leslie. Leslie. Is Leslie still online with us? I am not seeing her, so we can circle back with her. She jumps back online. Tim.
Abstain.
Nick.
Yes.
Martin.
Abstain.
Roman is absent. Jose is absent. Jonathan.
Abstain.
Philomena is absent. Janice.
Yes.
John is absent. Alicia.
Stay.
Margarita.
Sí.
Naomi and Vanessa are absent. Sal.
Yes.
Montserrat is absent. Let's go to Sylvia.
Sylvia, yes.
Yes, all right. Is Ashley back online? Okay. Josie. Is Josie online?
Yeah, I'm online. Yes.
And your vote is yes as well?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Michelle. I'll keep an eye out for her in the waiting room. Maritza.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Michelle, I'm looking at the waiting room here. I do not see Leslie yet.
Okay, she's starting her router again.
Ah, okay.
Sorry.
All right. So currently what we have is 10 yeses and 5 abstain. And Domingo, with Leslie being offline, does that fulfill quorum?
I don't think so. I think we need 50% plus 1 for quorum.
Right.
So we
1,
still need
2.
Leslie.
So I will keep an eye out to see if Leslie comes back in. Give her another minute or two. And also to see, I know Ashley was on and off. I saw her coming on and off. See if Ashley comes back
Yeah, she
in.
says Ashley's been trying to get in. She's like, gets the message saying that someone will let her in, but then nothing happens, and she's tried a couple times. She's just having trouble with the link that was sent to her. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't know. So I did see her in the room at one particular point. So, and I'm looking at at the waiting room. I don't see anybody in the waiting room.
Sheldon, this is Sal.
Yes, Sal.
Domingo just mentioned that we need 50% plus one to meet quorum.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see the number there at 30, but we're starting at 6. So how many are we actually working with?
Let me see here. So we've got 25. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's what I've counted. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, I think we actually do meet quorum. Domingo, can you please verify?
You're right, because Hillary is not a member.
Yeah. Oh, there's Ashley. I just see her in the waiting room. Ashley, are you with us? Yeah. Ashley, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Ashley. So
Yeah.
we are actually in the process of taking roll for a motion. And so I'm going to put that in, I'm going to put that in the chat box. I still, Michelle, don't see Leslie in the waiting room. But Ashley, I do need to log your vote.
Perfect.
And I just put the motion in the chat box.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. I've been trying to log in for the past 30 minutes. I vote yes.
Oh, I see. I think this might be Leslie coming in. I apologize for the delay here. We may need to table the last item on the agenda, given the time. Leslie, are you with us now? Leslie, are you with us now?
Yes, I'm back in now. I so apologize, but I'm showing as Peter again. I had changed my name.
Yeah, no worries. So we are in the process of taking vote for the original motion. I just put that in the chat box there. I just wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to log your vote.
I appreciate that, and I'll be abstaining.
Right. Okay. So with that, the motion passes 11 yeses and 6 abstentions. Right. Thank you all for your patience on this. I apologize, it did go a bit over. Kind of anticipated that given the conversation, but I do think that we did engage in a good conversation regarding this topic. With that, I'm actually going to transition to having Eric Luther from the Air District share a bit about a project. And I apologize, Jonathan. I think we might need to table your item for the next meeting, if that's okay, Jonathan.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pull my screen back up so that I can hand it over to Eric.
Okay, thank you, Shalem. Yeah, I can see the screen now. Good evening, steering committee members. My name is Eric Luther with the San Diego Air Pollution Control District. Tonight we're going to be discussing the Austal floating dry dock project. Next slide, please. So also joining me for the presentation tonight, we have Jay Wilson and Hugo Bermudez from Austal, and then also Carl Rekazewski and Jason Walsh from Jacobs. And Jacobs is the consultant on this project and helped prepare the initial study. So as we're going through the presentation tonight, we're going to be describing a project that's happening at the Austal location. Really the main focus of what we're trying to do tonight is just present the project. It is going through a CEQA process right now. So I'm going to be your point of contact to receive any comments on the project. And I'm going to put my email in the chat so everyone can make sure they have that. And my email is also on the last slide of the presentation. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, as I said, we're here today to discuss the Austal Floating Dry Dock project, in which the San Diego Air Pollution Control District is the lead agency for the California Environmental Quality Act, or we commonly refer to that as CEQA for short. So the purpose of CEQA evaluation is to determine if a project will cause any environmental impacts. Austal has applied to the district for air quality permits for some of the processes and equipment which will be used at their facility. Because the district has the main responsibility for approving the project by evaluating their permit applications, the district is the lead agency for the CEQA process. Okay, next slide, please. So the lead agency responsibilities include preparing an initial study to determine if the project will have any environmental impacts. This initial study has been prepared, and the decision has been made to further evaluate the project with an environmental impact report, or EIR for short. The EIR will include in the air quality section some analysis from our permit applications. Analysis from our permit applications, including a health risk assessment and an air quality impact analysis. So for tonight's meeting, after providing a summary of the project, we would like to hear the community's feedback about the project and hear any areas that should be addressed during the EIR process. And really this EIR process is really just kind of starting now. And we're going to be taking comments on this project until October 3rd. So now we're going to be moving to the next slide, and I'm going to be handing it over to the folks from Austal. If you can unmute yourself and describe the project, please.
All right, good evening, everyone. This is Jay Wilson. I'm the Director of Operations and General Manager for Austal on the West Coast. The Austal facility that we're talking about is located immediately south of Navy Base San Diego on Bay Marina Drive. The dry dock portion of the project is located on our Navy lease at the south end of the base. Next slide, please. Formerly, the site included on the lower right-hand side, you can see the Knight and Carver when they had the facility back in prior to 2010, and more recently on the lower left side picture there, you'll see there was a group of businesses located co-located at the facility, including Marine Group Boatworks, Jag Blast and Paint, and Titan Tank Cleaning Company. The site use in both cases included vessel construction, ship repair, and activities which included activities of welding, plasma cutting, fiberglass, and fiberglass repair, as well as use of solvents and abrasives. In the case of Knight and Carver, on the lower right-hand side again, you'll see that they did have, in fact, a floating dry dock in operation for ship repair for a period of time at the facility. Next slide, please. A bit of history about local history about Austal. In 2016, we established business operations in San Diego. At the time, we were located in a small leased warehouse in Chula Vista with about 15 employees. In 2019, we developed our repair division and moved to National City with where we had built up to approximately 83 people at the time. And we pretty much remained at that until 2022, when we relocated operations to the waterfront facility on Bay Marina Drive. Currently with about 120 employees working both at the facility and on Navy Base San Diego. Currently planning and executing waterfront improvements in preparations for the ultimate of commissioning the dry dock and making it ready for operations. While we're doing that, making those plans, we're also expanding our roles to be able to perform longer and more complex LCS availabilities. In doing so, as we grow the workforce, we're also developing skill sets and specialties that will support the Navy and Coast Guard vessels. Envisioned in years ahead, we envision that we will be adding additional resources of 100 permanent employees, potentially another 100 contractors, and an additional 100 subcontractors, which come and go as the job requirements for them. That's all once the floating dry dock is operational. Next slide, please. While our number one priority remains safety of our employees and the team in general, our number two priority is to operate in an environmentally responsible manner. To do that, we execute using best management practices, procedures, and controls. Compliance with these standards is to safeguard the community, the workforce, and the environment. Some of these processes are installation of primary controls, including containment, ventilation, waste collection, management. Another key is training and education of the workforce to ensure their understanding of the processes and procedures and how it impacts not only themselves, but the surrounding communities and the environment as a whole. Next slide. Upgrades that have been implemented thus far at the site. There's stormwater collection systems being upgraded in process, solar panel installation, lighting upgrades to the shipyard and operations building. Everything's been converted to more efficient lighting of LED. Increased use of electric forks, which is allowing an 88% of previous diesel power equipment to be eliminated from the site. Next slide, please. Just as a comparison, you see on the map, we're currently showing BAE, NASCO, and the Austal location at the bottom of that little map on the left. And on the right-hand side, you have a relative comparison of dock sizes, with BAE operating 2 dry docks, NASCO 1, and the future one for Austal. Our purpose of this project is intended to contribute to the fleet mission readiness while keeping ships in the home port of San Diego. Next slide, please. Future Pierside and dry dock operations will include ship maintenance and repair, welding, metal fabrication, machining, painting, adhesive, solvents use, pretty much the same as was done prior at with previous operations. And on the left-hand side, you can see the rendition of the floating dry dock during normal operation. Just a point to make here: during normal operations, the dry dock is 100% electric powered. And next slide, please. Okay, on the bottom picture that's there, you'll see relationship of of Austal on the lower right-hand corner, which is up against the National City Marine Terminal, and Pasha to the right. And we're on the south side of Navy Base San Diego. And then up above, it's artist rendition of the facility with the dry dock in place, as well as an LCS at Pierside. At this time, we'll turn it over to Carl from Jacobs.
All right, next slide. Hi, I'm Carl Rikachevsky with Jacobs. And as Eric's already mentioned, we've prepared an initial study, which is a CEQA document. The main purpose is to identify if there are potentially significant impacts that would require preparation of an environmental impact report. And the resources that are being shown here on the slide are the topics that are addressed in that initial study that we've prepared. So what the initial study's findings are is that all impacts to all those resources there, except for two, are either are less than significant. We have potentially significant impacts to air quality. There's also a box there that says mandatory findings of significance. That's not really a resource topic, but it has some kind of broad overarching questions. And two of them were triggered. One is the potential for cumulative impacts, which are impacts from this project plus other projects that are going on, and potential impacts to human health and safety. Those impacts under mandatory findings of significance are related to the air quality impacts. So even though it's kind of two boxes that are checked here, it's really all related to potential impacts from air quality. Next slide. So, based on the findings of the initial study, we are preparing an EIR. The EIR was an initial level of analysis. We're going to be doing a detailed analysis of both air quality impacts, and we're doing a health risk assessment based on the findings of the initial study. Those two studies that I just mentioned will be incorporated into the findings of the draft EIR. And that's basically the next step will be a draft EIR, which will then be put out for public review and comment.
Okay, thanks, Carl. And next slide, please. Yeah, so that's kind of an overview of the Austal Dry Dock project. So I know we are running short on time, so this is where we did want to try to hear some feedbacks. I don't know if we're going to forego that if there's other things that need to happen, Shalem, at the end of the meeting. But if you could just advance to the last slide of the presentation. Go one more, please. So again, that's my email address where comments can be sent. The QR code here will bring you to the CEQA page, the Air District, where you can view the initial study that Carl from Jacobs was discussing. So yeah, I don't know if we had a few minutes or for comments, or if you needed to end the meeting here, Shalem.
I think we could take a couple comments before we adjourn.
Okay. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, so I think a big community concern is the potential of introducing to the neighborhood another air toxic hotspot. And so I guess, will there be a study of like the cancer risk that this facility may potentially be exposing residents to? I don't know if in past EIRs, if they did like an analysis of cancer risk specifically. I think usually it's like it's framed as like GHG emissions, but would they be looking into that?
Yeah, so for this project, because the air quality section has those potentially significant impacts, so there's going to be a health risk assessment done, and then also a air quality impact analysis that's going to be done, and to possibly see if there's any cumulative impacts from air toxics and criteria pollutants from the processes that are going to happen at Austal. So from the air quality impacts, yeah, they should be addressed, yes. Yeah, the only thing I was going to add is just so the right now we're in this notice of preparation. We're noticing that we are going to prepare an EIR. So the comments, just in regards to what you might want to see addressed in the EIR. So we're in that open comment period right now until October 3rd. When that period closes, there will be an EIR produced. There will be another opportunity when the EIR is produced for it'll be more a public process with comments once the EIR is out.
Thank you so much, Eric, and special thanks to the folks of Austal for being here this evening and presenting. Feel free to click on that link or get the link from that QR code to view the initial study. And then also you can feel free to email Eric if you have any other questions or comments as well. Given where we are with time, I just want to see if there's any last public comments on an item that hasn't been previously on the agenda of this evening. All right, I am not seeing any. And so with closing remarks, I just want to thank you all for being here this evening and spending your time with us. Our next meeting is going to be October 22nd, virtual via Zoom. So we'll be sending out that link in the next couple of weeks. And for the CSC members, in a couple of weeks, you'll be seeing a draft agenda. With that, I want to see if we have, excuse me, we have a motion to adjourn and a second.
I motion to adjourn.
Thanks, Maritza. Is there a second?
A second.
And thank you, Tim. Or was it Tim or Nick? I'm sorry.
It was me, Nick.
I'm sorry, that's Nick. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, yeah. I only hear Sarah.
Aye. Aye.
All right, great. All those
Aye.
opposed who would like to spend the rest of their evening with me, say nay. Good. I'm not offended at all. All right. So thank you all. Have a great evening. We'll be following up with some of the links that we shared tonight, and also be following up with the video of tonight's recording as well. Thank you all. Have a great evening and be well. Take care.
Buenas noches.